In this interview, I speak with Alex Wallace from the Mintridge Foundation, our proud charity partner who shares our belief in the power of sport and making it accessible to all. I'm also joined by Shona McCallin MBE, Olympic gold medalist and Mintridge ambassador, who's inspiring the next generation through mentorship in schools and clubs. So thank you for being here. Alex, can you tell us just a little bit more about Mintridge Foundation? What do you do and what's the mission of the foundation?
Yeah, absolutely. So we here at the Mintridge Foundation want every young person to have a positive relationship with sport, however that might look. And we achieve that by harnessing the incredible power of sporting role models far beyond the podiums and the medals that they have, to find a sport and a pathway that every young person can go on and enjoy a sport in whatever capacity they choose to pursue it. We're so lucky in the athletes that we work with. We have an amazing array of Olympians, Paralympians and other sporting icons that deliver mentoring programs across the UK in schools and grassroots clubs. One of which we have here with us today in the form of Shona McCallin, who deliver their messages, show their vulnerabilities, show the human side of these extraordinary athletes, and really help and inspire young people to follow whatever path they choose to pursue.
That's amazing. And you're connecting young people, either individuals or clubs and teams and schools. What sort of impact are you seeing when you are putting, an athlete in front of, a group of people? What impact is there?
Oh, the impact is so diverse, and I think that's what we love so much. But I think the most rewarding part of it, for me, was something that I never envisaged when we started, and that's the full circle approach. And that's how much the athletes get from giving back as well. So that's really exciting, that we can help them with their passion and purpose as well. So it's almost a secondary impact. But we see such different forms of impact from all different ages, and it might be that we go in with a completely new sport that a young person has never discovered before, and they suddenly see that they might have really early success with it, they have really early enjoyment with it, that they then go on to join a local grassroots club, and that's all come from the power and the fire that the ambassadors are able to ignite in young people. So that's really exciting that we can help start a journey. But then the other side of it is we deliver 6-month mentoring programs, so we really get to know a young person on a one-to-one level, and we might help them in a much deeper way. We might help them with goal setting, we might help them with diet, nutrition. There's such a variety that we never know at the start of the program. I have my favorite stories from the last 10 years, and yeah, it's exciting to see. We'll never know which direction it will go in.
Oh, that's incredible. So I think we probably need to hand the mic over to Shona. So Shona, you have reached like the highest level Olympic gold medalist. But let's just take it back a little bit. So what was your journey as a young athlete growing up, and how did you get to where you ended up?
Yeah, firstly, thank you for having me. As a young athlete, I think going back to what Alex said about the full circle, this is one in motion. So me and Alex played against each other when we were, I think, 14, 15. And now fast forward 15 years, we're working together, which is amazing because that's what sport does. It just brings people together and allows you to, go on fantastic journeys. And a fantastic journey is certainly one that I've been on. As a young athlete, I was one of those kids that did a lot of sports, and I'm really pleased I got the ability and opportunity to do lots of sports. So I'd do a bit of tennis, a bit of netball, a bit of swimming, cross country, hockey, of course, lots of football as well. So I was, throughout my primary school years, I was the only girl that played football at my school, and I was the only girl that represented a football team in the county. So the primary school that I went to was always known as the school with the girl. That's the school with the girl, and I was the girl. And that was challenging sometimes, but what it taught me massively was just be who you are, do what you want to do, and it definitely helped me in my hockey career because I was always quite slight, just be a bit more fiery and a bit more able to hold on to the ball against bigger players and be a bit more streetwise with things. And that's definitely something which I learned on the playground playing against the boys and took with me all the way through my hockey career. I've touched on it a bit, but just the importance of being able to do many sports was just great for me for numerous reasons. One, it stopped the burnout. I think if I'd only done hockey for, since I was 6 all the way through to when I was 18, I might have got a bit bored of it. There's also lots of skills which you can develop from being in lots of sports. So there's quite an obvious correlation between football and hockey, both team sports, trying to score goals. There's the spatial awareness, the team side of it, the formation, the tactics. But there's also the other skills which you can learn from sports. So, for example, swimming. The fitness that you need for swimming is so different to hockey, but there's definitely parallels in the way that I could get fitter swimming by not having, impact on my joints and a different type of fitness, and that correlating to hockey. And for example, netball as well. I played that at school a little bit. The footwork, the agility, the power, the ability to use the space around you and to read like 2 plays ahead. So I'm really, really grateful that I was able to do lots of sports, both at the primary school and the secondary school that I went to, but also join some clubs outside of those as well.
At what stage did you make the commitment to drop some of the other sports? And obviously there must have been somebody that perhaps said to you, there's a real talent here for the hockey and you need to focus more on that sport. When did that conversation come about?
It probably happened naturally. Quite a lot of sports dropped out probably between the age of year 6 and year 8, I'd say, like various reasons. Swimming, I got a bit bored of it, to be honest, and I didn't like to be in a pool and not talking to anybody. Cross country, I decided I didn't want to do that because it was a bit too cold and a bit muddy. Tennis, it started to clash with hockey and football. So it was when I was about 14, so I think year 8, maybe year 9, which I was doing football and hockey at a pretty high level. So I was playing hockey for county and also for regional team, Midlands at the time. And for football, I was playing for academy, so Lincoln City at the time, and also a girls team as well. So I had to stop playing with the boys. And so some weekends I was playing, could be like 4 matches. So 2 football matches and 2 hockey matches, because I was kind of at that age where you could play adults and juniors in hockey. And it just got to that natural kind of breaking point almost where I just had to make a decision. I was not able to do both sports fully, and that's not something that I really enjoyed, like being half in football, half in hockey. And there was a hockey coach who I still see now and again, Tim Barlow, who was a coach at the Midlands Hockey, who really encouraged me to have a real think about the decision about what I wanted to do. Decided obviously to choose the hockey route. I think for me there was a couple factors. One was the journey to the top felt a bit more structured. So for football, it was you're in an academy and you might get scouted for England. That might have changed now. I'm not totally up to date, but for hockey there was a few more steps. So I was in the county squad, and I was trialing and playing for the Midlands, and then the Midlands have a tournament against the North, the South, the East, the West, and then there's opportunities for England trials there. So there's a few more steps. And I knew I wanted to play sport. I was always the sporty kid, still am. Love doing it, love playing it, and I knew that that's kind of what I wanted to do. That brought me happiness as a teenager, and has done for a long period of my life as well.
Oh, that's amazing. You're clearly very, very talented. So back to you, Alex. So you're working across schools now in the UK. We hear a lot in the press about the lack of sport for kids, and there's obviously so many sort of barriers to entry now. What are you seeing, which are the biggest barriers for children when it comes to sport today?
Oh, it's a really tough question to answer, because we go into such a diverse group of schools across the UK that every school has its own challenges. But for me, the biggest challenge I see is confidence in school staff in delivering sport, and actually the knock-on effect that has. So when we go in, actually we're working with young people, but actually the secondary impact there is upskilling, we hope, teachers that might not have the confidence to deliver PE sessions throughout a whole academic year. And I think if that was me and I was a teacher and I was asked to teach art, let's say, or music, not my fortes at all, when they're during a PGCE year, I think they're given 1 hour of PE or something, 1 day of physical education across that whole year. I think if I put that into my brain and had to do art or music with that, with no prior knowledge, then it's completely understandable that there's a real lack of confidence. So that definitely falls down there and impacts the children from there. But saying that, we go into so many schools and they have a thriving sports community. So definitely different challenges. And we're obviously very biased here at Mintridge, but we try to create more positive role models for young people, because a lot of the time what they're seeing on their screens isn't necessarily a positive, active, healthy human role model that they're seeing in terms of influencers or whoever that might be. So we really, going back to my point earlier of the human aspect, that's what we want every young person to see.
Yeah, that probably answers my next question is why do you think that having athlete role models is so important for young people?
I think it's the instant culture that we live in, and that's across so many different sports, lifestyles. So a young person would maybe see Shona with her gold medal around her neck scoring a goal for England, but actually what they don't see is everything that goes into that, the ups, the downs, all the tears, all of the things that make us human, that actually that's what young people need to see. They need to see the whole person. They need to see that we all have the same problems. We've all come from a really similar background, and that's why we try to create quite relatable role models with the environment that we're in. So yeah, that's really important for us. It's definitely the whole person, the human element. And I love it when a young person like twigs that, oh, I support that football team, or I grew up in that town, and it's something as small as that they can say, well, look what they've gone on to achieve. Look what I can do. And it might not necessarily be, I want to be the next Olympic hockey player, but actually it's helping raise those aspirations, but also how you can achieve those aspirations in small steps, because success looks really different to everybody. So that's what's really powerful about the athletes we work with, is they're sharing their story. Yes, absolutely they are, but they're not saying this is for everyone. They're saying these are other options that there could be. So I'm a big fan of role models, as you can probably tell.
Yeah, I mean, just amazing, such wise words. So back to you, Shona. So kind of, you like you said earlier, you've gone full circle. You're using your sports experience now. You're inspiring a new generation of potentially Olympic athletes, but also just a young generation of sport offers so much more than just, the professional level, what it can do for a young person. We all know that. So what made you want to get involved with the Mintridge Foundation?
Yeah, you're taking me back to 2015, I think it was, Alex, was it? 2015, when we first had the conversation about joining. I think there was a natural...
It was before she got the gold medal. We loved her before the gold medal.
I think there was a natural bias and pull towards wanting to work with Alex and the Mintridge because of the hockey connection. Thinking passionate about growing the sport of hockey alongside sport, but there's a bit of a bias behind going down the hockey route. And I think having that initial chat with Alex, it was clear that she was super passionate about providing opportunities for people and helping the world and the school environment, certainly in the UK, just get that bit healthier. And I'm someone who's very much breathed, lived, and experienced the amazingly positive things that sport can bring to individuals. as a hobby, first and foremost, and just getting active, the endorphins, the positivity that it brings from you, the teammates and the friends you can make, the fun that you can have, the structure that it brings to you. But also on the opposite end of the scale, like being a professional athlete and what opportunities that can bring to you, and I guess the professional side to it, winning medals, going to the Olympic Games, having it as your job. And I kind of feel like not back in 2015, but certainly through my career, I've kind of experienced so much that sport can bring. And I was always fairly active in terms of getting myself into schools and giving assemblies, talks. There's always kind of a need and a want for people to come in and coach hockey. And I was often fairly active in that. And so to be able to work with Alex and the team that were able to do that is a major tick, but also like working with other athletes as well and other ambassadors. I think, I've been to many a day with Mintridge over the last 10 years. And I love the days where I'm on my own, but I love the days even more when I'm working with other ambassadors as well. And you can just share some experiences and you can learn from each other and have that bit more of a connection to each other, because it's a really unique place to be, like a professional athlete. So really long story about how and why I got involved, but the last 10 years have been pretty fun, and it's great to see how many people the company and Mintridge and the Alex and the team have impacted positively.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a case of power in numbers, I think, with what you're doing, what Alex is doing, and for anybody who doesn't know, you have got a huge bank of athlete role models and ambassadors for the foundation, haven't you? So it's incredible.
Just to add to the point that Shona said there about working alongside other athletes, I think what's always so amazing to see is we've got 40 or so athletes that have all had very different pathways, but their messaging and their ethos and their focuses are all so similar. So it doesn't matter what school they went to, what background, it's the values I think that they have in them. And I think when you have those days where you have more than one athlete, then it just re-emphasizes that point of resilience, what they've overcome and what it takes to get to the top, and what those young people that they're impacting, what they can take from that.
I mean, I guess for every athlete, your journeys are all different, but actually you've probably all had the same challenges at a different stage, just wrapped up slightly differently.
And a lot are similar to Shona in that they played lots of sports growing up, and they maybe had to make that decision of which way to go.
That's a really important point. I think we'll really try and sort of drive that across to our audience, because we have so many, obviously for our brand is quite football focused, and so many of our young athletes, they play and train like the same sport 5-6 times a week without anything else, and like that's the only thing that they know. So I just think it's a really important message when you're saying like try other things, and just keep your foot in all those different sports for a while, and then you can choose later on. It's such an important message. Shona, is there one sort of message that when you go into a group or you're working one-to-one with somebody, is there one sort of message that you try to get across, one key point?
I think what I do is try and understand the audience first and kind of gauge where they're at. So if I'm talking to a group in sixth form, then that's completely different to perhaps a Key Stage 1 or Key Stage 2 audience, for example. So first and foremost, I know that and I understand that because we've had conversations with the Mintridge team, and I know kind of what perhaps problems or what are things people are finding difficult. And then what I really, really, really try and do is like relate to their age at that time and then relate that to kind of my experiences. So for example, year 12 for me, if we're talking to a sixth form, year 12 for me was so tricky with A levels or AS levels, exams, I was playing for England under 18s and under 21s. You were trying to be social, you were going out, and, you know, all those things that are 16, 17-year-old experiences, I experience them as well, especially when it comes with sport as well. And one key message that often comes up, and to be honest, this is probably relevant for like 14, 15-year-olds as well, is like that time management with sport and studying and being able to balance the two. Now, I'm pretty proud of this fact, but I never missed a training session at all because I had too much homework or I was not able to do it. Like, with the help of, you know, my sister as a role model, she's a bit older than me, but really diligent with her work, and also my mum, you know, helping educate me onto like how I can do things and why should do things. Telling me, you know, if you tell a child to just do your homework, it's just going to get one in it. But, you know, understanding the reasons why you need to do it. And so that's a real big one for me, and helping students understand how they can best balance their time and balance their schedules, because some things are unavoidable. Like, you're probably going to have exams in June. There's probably, you could have your training schedule already. You've got training in June. And one big message I always say to groups is never turn anything off. And so what I mean by that is if your life and things in your life are like dials, like you have like in your car, like your aircon, you turn it up and you turn it down, or your oven, you turn it up, you turn it down. And throughout the year, you know, you'll have different dials. So for a student, it could be, you know, academic, it could be exams, it could be sport at school, it could be social and friends, it could be holiday, it could be, I don't know, school field trips. And in January, that will look really different in terms of what's dialed up and what's dialed down compared to June, for example. And it's the same philosophy that I use as an athlete as well, but the dials were perhaps a bit different. You know, it was nutrition, it was sleep, it was being how focused I was. It was like how much recovery I did. And, you know, during those periods of like off season, the nutrition dial was just dialed down a bit. It's not that I went off the rails and had McDonald's 4 times a day and only drank like Pepsi, but, you know, instead of it being like 85% on it and 15% not, it maybe went down to like 50-50. And that's a real big message that I share and try and help people with, is during those pressure points of a year where teenagers are always going to have, don't just dial off the sport and go, right, my exams and education needs to be dialed right up. That's the most important, because actually having that structure and having that outlet and going to do that sport can really help with the education piece as well. So I often use the analogy of like, you know, you're going into exam and you only started revising 2 days before, you're going to feel super stressed, right? But if you'd planned and looked at your 6 weeks and gone, okay, this is what's going on, this is what training I have, this is what I want to do, and you'd really periodized your time, and you started 6 weeks before, and 2 days before your exam, you've got like, you know, tennis training or whatever, you're like, yeah, I'm going to go to that tennis training because I'm feeling prepared and I've done everything that I need to do. And actually having that hour out of the house to go and have some fresh air, hit with some friends, like have a bit of a laugh, and you come back to the study and you're a bit more refreshed. So yeah, big message to me is just never just totally turn off the sport dial. Like turn it down, but never turn it off.
Brilliant message. Alex, you said that obviously you're 10 years, you've got some really lots of stories. Have you got one or a couple of really specific moments that stand out and capture what you're all about and what you were planning to do?
How long is this recording? I could be here all day. I think I'll give a couple of examples of like really diverse impact, and then that will hopefully showcase just how different every program can be. But one example is that we were asked by a primary school to go in and deliver wheelchair basketball. This primary school had 2 sisters that were unfortunately left paralysed in a car accident. And this was 2 years before we visited. And they they were joining in PE, but they had a TA. They felt very self-conscious the whole time. So the fact that we could go in with wheelchair basketball meant that every person in their class it was a level playing field. And those sisters, the elder one in particular, she was sweaty, she was laughing, she was really enjoying her sport. And the teachers said to us, we haven't seen her like this. We haven't seen her like that at all. So that was amazing in that, wow, we found something for her. But what was great was the support that our wheelchair basketball ambassador gave her for 6 months afterwards. And they really worked together, and she joined a local inclusive archery club because they found that was the sport that she wanted to do, she wanted to pursue. So actually it had nothing to do with the wheelchair basketball, but they were able to use that as a way of forming a partnership to then go on and explore, and she could see what he'd achieved as a disabled athlete. What could she go on and do? So that's definitely one. Another one was really early on that was really special to me personally. So I started Mintridge born out of my own personal experiences and actually what I didn't achieve with my hockey. One big achievement was tackling Shona McCallin, I think, in around 2006, but that's another story. So I didn't get selected for England at under 16 level. And I really struggled after that, really struggled with my mental health. I really struggled with my identity, but I didn't necessarily know that at the time and the reasons I was struggling. So part of the formation of Mintridge was definitely, how can we bridge a gap between elite sport and elite athletes and the next generation to ensure that every young person can be supported and nurtured in a way that I don't necessarily think I was and prepared for. I had a huge fear of failure. I put so much pressure on myself. I felt like I'd let people down. So it was really born out of supporting up and coming talent. And in the very early stages of Mintridge, we worked with a young modern pentathlete, Heather Fell, one of our ambassadors, worked really closely with her for 6 months. And this student went on to represent Great Britain. And in a very odd sort of way, it was really part of my healing that she'd got that GB call up that I never got. But actually it was almost like a turning point for me in that I didn't get there, but look what we're supporting and we're enabling to happen. And it was really echoed by what she said, and that she knew she was talented in her sport, but actually she didn't know what she wanted to achieve necessarily. And once she did know what she wanted to achieve, how she was going to achieve it. So working with an Olympic silver medalist on a fortnightly basis, they were able to really strip everything back and look at, okay, what are your goals? Brilliant. These are your long-term goals, but how can we help you get there and do that yourself? So that's been amazing. And sort of following her pathway now, it's great to see there. So 2 very different examples, and I could go on and on and on, but we can save that for another time.
Oh, that gave me goosebumps, that story. But that's almost one that will do a full circle and end up being back with you on a completely different capacity. But yeah.
And she's been an ambassador for us as well. So she's gone into primary schools as well. So yeah, it's been amazing.
Shona, you mentioned, I think was it Tim you said, who was the coach that was the one that spoke with you and said maybe consider what you do now. Have you had anybody else along your journey that you would say was a mentor, and how that person, who was that person? How did they shape your journey?
Yeah, it's a good question. I often get asked like, who was my role model? And to be honest, and a bit sad really, I didn't really have one because there was not really visibility of female athletes on the TV. I remember sometimes being able to watch some women's football on BBC, but now as we're recording, we're bang in the middle of the women's Euros, and at the moment there's 2 matches on every night, which is brilliant. Nearly full stadiums, and so things have changed a lot, which is great. Makes me kind of jealous that I'm not growing up now with all these role models and visibility of women's sports. But I think Tim was huge, because I was at that kind of quite important age, 13, 14, 15, where spoke about athletes, current professional athletes, they often did 2 sports at a high level, and 13, 14, 15 is kind of like a sweet spot where lots of people have to choose between the two. So I came across him and worked with him at that age, and that was great. And what he really taught me was the importance of honing your basics and getting your basics right. So when you talk about your basic nutrition, your sleep, your recovery, your stretching, your core stability, like that was introduced at 13, 14, which was, looking back, amazing. You know, we got so many resources and booklets on what to do and how to do it. And you know, we did training diaries, and it was so alien, but thank goodness we did it, because it really set me up really nicely moving forward and gave me some real good habits. So he was great. I think another, I'm going to fast forward a few years to a coach that I had when I was 18, and just really instilled like the importance of working hard in training and really like getting after it in training, rather than going, oh, well, I'm not just going to try that hard in training because I need to save myself for the matches. Like, it's not how it works. Like, it's higher up you get, it's not how it works. And if you get really high up doing that, then well done you, but it really doesn't work like that. And he gave me quite a lot of tough love, but that really helped me build like some real resilience and thick skin, and making sure that I was getting good at training hard and wanted to train hard. And that kind of flicked a switch between the ages of like 18 and 19. And then, really, really kicked on between those ages, and ended up, trialing out for GB when I was 19 or 20 after that. And here I am nearly 10 years later, retired after having a really successful career.
Amazing. So, question, both of you chime in if you want to, but we are, as a brand, we're all about making sure that all children have got the opportunity to play sport if they want to. Why do you both think that it's important to empower all children? And we're very much like, not just the ones that are showing that promise, they could be the next, talented thing. I'm very much about kind of everybody should have that opportunity. Just want to know sort of your take on empowering those that aren't really shining.
For me, there is a sport for every young person, and I maintain that. And that's what I've really seen over the last decade, in that we might go into a school and a non-traditionally sporty child shines at a sport that they might not have had access to before. And that just shows there is something out there for everyone. And it goes back to my point from earlier of, what does success look like for you as a young person? And success and enjoyment of sport for me as a young person was a hand-eye coordination sport. It was a competitive sport, and it was being the best that I can be. But it's taken me a long time to understand and learn that that's not for everybody, and sport can be seen and viewed and enjoyed in so many different ways for being simply being active. So that for me is, it's for everyone, and you can go and use sport and enjoy sport in whatever capacity. And actually, once you find that love and that of that particular activity, there's so much beyond playing it that you can then go and enjoy. You can go and watch it, you can work in it. There's just so much in the sports industry that we have to ensure that every young person has that access.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, I'd like to just focus on the word that you used there, Alex, which is activity, because sometimes I think that the word sport puts people off, and it has to be competitive and you have to go out to win and it has to be an end goal of it. But just getting out and doing some form of activity with just no goal in mind, but just to get moving, be with other people, have a different stimulus, be outside, learn something new, gain a bit of confidence, like that for me is just as important, even more important than having sport as something to win or something to compete at, because it's really not just about like winning.
Yeah. What changes would you both like to see in youth sport over the next 5 years? We've spoken, obviously, I know, Alex, you really, really want to make sure that there's this positive, that, you know, the positivity in the language and the way that people speak. But how would, you know, in 5 years' time we go, job well done, this has changed, this is great. What would you see as a great positive change?
I think it might take a little longer than the 5 years, but for me, it's the shift in mentality in schools around the importance of sport. And I think as well, it's a shift in mindset of how easy that is. That I don't know if anyone knows about the Daily Mile, which has just grown and grown and grown. And that's as simple as the bell goes in a school and the children go outside and run a mile. And that doesn't take much. That doesn't take lots of resource from the school. But it just shows the importance, and they've seen how much has positively changed within a school day for each of those children. So yeah, a change in mindset around the importance across the whole of the UK, both primary and secondary for me.
Yeah. Shona, have you got anything to add?
Alex, well said.
Yeah, done. Almost ready to wrap up, but I've got one more question for you, Shona. So our brand, we're Laceeze and we're Defiance. Defiance really just stands for empowering children to play sport. It's about being the best you can. It's not about being as we've already spoken about today, you know, going to the Olympics or being professional, but it's just about being strong and being defiant. What does defiance in sport mean to you?
Linking on to your words there, it's for me, it's about trying to be better than yesterday. And so turning up, trying to do something a little bit better, trying to be a bit more engaged, or trying to throw the ball a bit further, or whatever it may be, just trying to be that little bit better than yesterday, and knowing that sometimes you just aren't. But putting yourself out there and getting involved in doing it is a great step that you've taken.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, thank you both so much for your time. I think we could have chatted for hours, but yeah, I really appreciate that. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Emma and Alex.
Thanks, Emma. Thank you.